Hi everyone, I'm Corey Joe, or CJ, and this is Commander Class. Today we will be going over the 8 basic card types in Magic the Gathering. If you've watched episode 1 or 2, you might have heard me mention some of these cards before through passing, but I will be going through all 8 card types, or all 8 basic card types, and going into them through a little bit more detail each. The 8 card types I will be talking about will be lands, creatures, artifacts, enchantments, planeswalkers, sorceries, instants, and tokens. If you don't know how to find what the card type is, it will say it's somewhere on the card. It is usually in the center of the card on a thin kind of strip under the image and over the text box. Depending on the card and where it's from, it may be somewhere else, but it is usually there. So the first one we'll be talking about is lands. Lands kind of come in 2 sections. There is basic lands, where there is 6 of them that come in as their own color. I will show them here. So lands are usually used that when you play them, you tap them to be able to cast your spells, creatures, or anything else like that that you want to play. On the top corner of the card, it will show you how much it costs, and you need that amount of lands to do it. If there is a colored pip or a symbol, it usually means you need to play the one that's color pip or symbol. However, if there is a number in the top of the card, you just need to tap that many lands equal to the number. It doesn't matter which color you use. A good thing to do is read what the land does, because lands kind of come in 2 different ways. Some lands have a clause when it enters, so some just enter tap, but they tap of one of 2 colors. Some you can only play if there is a certain amount of opponents or if you have a certain amount of lands. So you have to read what the card does, because there might be a flaw, or you might have to do something to be able to play that land. When it comes to your turn, you're allowed to play 1 land unless you have a card that says otherwise. The other section of lands are the ones that have abilities. So usually it might like tap for 1, but then underneath it, if you tap 2 and it, you get to do something extra. So some lands give you creatures, some let you exile people's graveyards. There's many other cards that do this. So it's up to you when you read them if you want to put that in your deck or not. The second section we'll be talking about are creatures. The easiest way to tell what a creature is that at the bottom right hand corner there should be 2 numbers. The first number is the power of the creature, so that's when you attack, how much damage it does to the blocking creature, planeswalker, or opponent. The second number is its toughness or its health, so if it is being blocked or if someone attacks and you block, it's how much health it has, and at the end of your turn the number goes back to full. The second way is how I said to find out what the land is. That little strip in the center will explain if it is a creature or legendary creature. As long as it says it's the word creature, you will know what it is. When you are playing Magic and you play a creature, it has a thing called Summoning Sickness. So if it is your turn and you play a big creature that turn, or you play any form of creature, that creature cannot do anything. So it cannot tap for its ability and it cannot attack. However, there are cards that stop this with a keyword called haste, which I will get into in a later video. Your creature cannot attack or activate its abilities unless said otherwise. A lot of creatures, when you summon it, have a text box that gives it kind of like a second ability or it does something. So there is a lot of creatures that when they enter the battlefield or ETBs, they get to do blank. There is also creatures that if you tap mana and tap it, you get to do other stuff too. So it is really good to read what your cards do, and if you ever need kind of help or an explanation, please feel free. There's usually a name on the top left, or send an image and I will try my best to explain that card for you. And then usually underneath that text is, it's not on all cards, but it is in majority of creatures, there is kind of like a lore sentence or something to do with the Magic Gathering world underneath it to kind of give it more flavor. Next up, we will be talking about artifacts. Artifacts is when things kind of get a little bit more complicated for your basic Magic the Gathering player, because artifacts kind of come in 4 different ways. So artifacts are usually mana rocks, creatures, static artifacts, or equipment. So I'll be going over all 4 of them in a little bit more detail. So a mana rock artifact card is usually a card that you play now and it taps for mana. So usually you like tap 3 to play your mana rocks, you invest now to get more mana later on. The most common ones would be Soul Ring and Arcade Signet. There is going to be them 2 and another one here on the screen now. There are different ones, and some tap for colorless, some tap for all colors, and some tap for just one single color themselves. I will be going on to different mana rocks and how they're used in a later video. Next are artifact creatures. They are usually colorless, and they also have the downside of, so when you tap your mana rock, if you play a mana rock, it doesn't get summoning sickness. You can use them right away unless it's an artifact creature. Artifact creatures still get summoning sickness, unfortunately, but artifact creatures usually help other artifact creatures. There are many artifact creatures like this, and I will be showing some here now. The next is static artifacts. The easiest way to explain is an artifact that kind of is constantly doing something, or you tap to activate it. So for example, you will have an artifact that you play, and if a creature dies, or if someone draws a card or something like that, you activate it. Activates on its own, but there's also artifact cards that you have to tap mana to do something with it. I will show some of them here right now. And then lastly, when it comes to the artifact, is equipment. So this usually is like some form of clothing or weapons, and it kind of has 2 mana costs, one at the top for when to play it, and the second one is to put it on a creature. The good thing about these is if a creature dies, it just goes back to the side, and then you can repay on your turn, unless specifically otherwise, get to pay the bottom mana cost, the equip cost, to put it back on your creature. So it's usually like clothing, so like shoes, hats, helmets, or weapons like swords, shields, and axes and stuff like that. These are really good because when you have a creature down and you already have it on the field because you paid to cast it, you can just cast the equip and put it on your new creature. And also on your turn, you can tap, if it's on a creature, you can tap the equip cost to put it on another creature of yours. So as it says in the name, it is some form of equipment, and I will give a few examples here now. Next, we will be talking about enchantments. So enchantments come in 3 different ways. There is static enchantments, triggered enchantments, and enchantment auras. So static enchantments are enchantments that when you play them, they just stay there, and they have a constant ability that goes through, that doesn't need anything for it to activate. It just sits there, and here are a few examples of that. The next is a triggered enchantment that usually happens if a creature dies or if someone draws a card. There's many other ways for a triggered enchantment to be triggered, so here are a few examples of them. Lastly, enchantment auras are enchantments that you get to put on your creatures, your opponents, or lands that do special things. So some power up your creature, some do downsides for an opponent, and some give you more mana added to your land, and here is a few examples of them. Next are Planeswalkers. So later on I will be making a video on the full aspect of Planeswalkers because they do get difficult and there is a lot about them. But for the basics, only thing you need to know is it's kind of like a second mini player. When you cast your Planeswalker, it will enter the battlefield with a number of loyalty counters on it, which will be represented by the number in the bottom right corner. Most, not all, Planeswalkers will have 3 abilities. Some have 1, some have more, and some have static abilities that you don't need to activate. But majority of the time it is a small plus number, a small minus number, and then a big minus number. So you can only activate the abilities once per turn, unless told otherwise, of your Planeswalkers, and it will adjust the number at the bottom corner or its loyalty. So you can only use a minus ability if it has enough of those points. So it's good to start off by plussing them. So usually when you play your Planeswalker, it will have kind of like a good but not amazing plus ability, like a +1 or a +2 usually. That gives you a little bit of benefit. The second will be a minus that does something kind of mediocre, but the downside is the loyalty will go less on your Planeswalker. And then usually it has its big minus, or what I've heard a lot of people call it, its ult, where it usually does game changing or huge things. Its ult is a lot higher than the loyalty it starts off with. In some cases there are Planeswalkers that have a static ability that you don't need to plus or minus it, it will just constantly do it throughout the game. So Planeswalkers, when you play them, you usually try and plus them a few times, and then when you have like the minus blank ability, you then are able to do it. Also be careful, because if you have the exact number and the minus number, it will kill your Planeswalker. Whenever an opponent attacks you, they have a choice to attack you or your Planeswalker. That's why it's kind of like a mini player, because they're also used as good blockers, but most people want to keep their Planeswalker alive because that big minus ability or its ult is a really good game-changing effect. But you also have to be careful because there are cards in the game that just instantly get rid of Planeswalkers. Another good thing about Planeswalkers is that it could have a line of text saying it can be your commander. So if you start to like Planeswalkers a lot and you want to have a Planeswalker deck, you can have one as your commander. Here are a few examples of Planeswalkers, and here are a few examples of Planeswalkers that can be commanders, and here is what the text is underneath. Next, we will be talking about Sorceries. Sorceries will be considered a non-permanent card because it doesn't stay on the field. It is literally you pay it, it does its thing, and then goes to the graveyard. You can only activate Sorceries on your main phase 1 and your main phase 2, again, unless told otherwise. Here is a few examples of Sorceries. Next, we'll be talking about Instances. Instances are a lot like Sorceries, that when you play them, it activates its ability and then goes to the graveyard or exiled if it says on the card or otherwise. The difference between Instances and Sorceries is you can play an instant whenever you can, considering you have the mana, and also it depends on a thing called the stack, which I will be getting on into later games. But for now, if it's an opponent's turn and they go to do something, so like play a creature, you have the right to instantly play an instant to like counterspell or destroy the creature. There are many instances in the game, and here are a few examples of those. And finally, we'll be talking about tokens. A token is a permanent not represented by a normal card. So that means that this token does not have a mana cost, and it is usually represented by a full art card that just has the basics needed. The easiest way to explain this is if you have a green elf that you cast, and it says when it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green elf warrior, you will then get a token that is an elf warrior that is a 1/1 that also enters the battlefield with it. There are two types of these tokens. One is creatures that come in many shapes and sizes, starting off with 1/1 elves, and then like you can make octopuses and angels. The next are artifact tokens that are usually treasures, clues, or food. There is many different creatures and many different artifacts, but they are the main ones I see played and used. The main difference between a token creature and a creature is that when they both die, the creature will go to the graveyard and stay in the graveyard, or a token when second hits the graveyard will go straight into exile. The most common token creatures I see are these. The most common token artifacts I see are these. So now you know the basic card types in Magic the Gathering. If there's any that I've missed or any that you want me to go into more detail, please comment down below and I will try my best to respond, or I will let you know that I will be doing that or talking about that in a later video. And remember to please like, subscribe, follow me on my other social medias so I can produce more of these classes and let people know about the Magic the Gathering. And also share. The more people that see this, the more it helps me, and it means a lot because I do enjoy doing this and I can't wait to get into more of these classes in more detail. And our next class will be on the basic colors of Magic the Gathering. So if you've seen with the examples in the previous classes that there's different colored cards, so I'll be explaining each of the colors in a bit more detail in the next video.